Hello everyone, I'm Chloe Johnson and welcome to this Fresh Business Thinking webinar series, Lockdown Learning for Businesses, supported by BT. Fresh Business Thinking is proud to be a part of Skills for Tomorrow by BT, which is helping 10 million people in the UK make the most of life in the digital world. Working with us and other leading digital skills enterprise and community organisations, BT has created and collated some of the best advice, information and support in one easy place to navigate. It's easy for anyone to access our webinars, as well as discover other ways they or their family and friends can grow their confidence and skills to make the most of tech. All it takes to get started is to visit www.bt.com/skills for tomorrow, or by clicking on the link in the comments section. Coronavirus has been a real challenge for small businesses and entrepreneurs across the UK. At Fresh Business Thinking, we're used to putting on events, sharing expertise, and encouraging and supporting networking. Throughout the pandemic, we knew this simply couldn't just stop. Perhaps more than ever, this is a time when, as a business community, we need to come together and support one another. And we're lucky enough to work with organisations and individuals who are passionate about supporting entrepreneurs during this difficult time. One of those is our speaker today, Darryl Woodhouse, 26-time award-winning advisor and entrepreneur, speaker and trainer, helping entrepreneurs, business leaders and their employees achieve a healthy work-life balance, mental fitness, productivity and business growth. Today, Darryl will discuss why business leaders and entrepreneurs must do more about well-being and productivity and how they can do it. Darryl will be talking for around 40 minutes and then we'll have some time for a Q&A. If you do have any questions, you can leave them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and we'll do our best to get to them later on in the session. That's all from now and I'll pass over to you, Darryl.
Thank you very much, Chloe, and good afternoon to everyone who's joined us so far. I'm pleased to be here and to add some value for you on the topics that Chloe very precisely introduced at the start. So I'm just going to go into a screen share. So we go straight into the first slide. So this slide is just a very quick introduction on me and who I am. In short, I'm a global keynote speaker, now in a virtual world as we adjust and navigate towards our new normal. And alongside that, over the years, as well as building up my own businesses and investing in other companies, following an earlier career in corporate leadership, I have developed some expertise and some passion around the topics that Chloe mentioned earlier. So strategy, mental health awareness, reducing stress in the workplace, work-life balance, productivity, mental fitness, team development, and all of these things. And with the planning and the practice before today, hopefully I'm going to be able to give you some great practical takeaways and some insights today to help all of you to work smarter and live happier. Now, those of you that might have questions as we go through, as Chloe encouraged earlier, we are going to have a live Q&A later. Some of the topics I share and talk about today will be quite personal to some of you individually and possibly quite sensitive. So if you have a question, but you're a bit shy or a bit nervous about sharing it publicly, just send a private message to Chloe in the chat. And then she can read out that question anonymously, so we can do it that way as well. Alternatively, you can tell everyone and pop your name out and put the chat on as an open question to everyone in the chat. So this is a very quick bit on housekeeping. If any of you would like to connect after today or to follow more of my work, I do regularly post written, audio and video content in most active channels online, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll find me on YouTube as well. Very much encourage you to do that. And we'll recap this at the end as well. But if you want to connect with me and send me a message on LinkedIn after the session, you can chat to me and ask any other questions that you have and keep in touch. But also if you'd like a copy of the slides in a PDF format, I'm happy to share those as well. So probably the best way is just to message me through LinkedIn. Now, on to the really exciting stuff. We're going to work on 8 actions to help you and those around you at home and in your workplace to beat burnout and boost productivity. Now, bit of context and positioning, bit of an obvious statement. Hopefully you can all relate to this. Life and business is tough. And sometimes even at the best of times, probably not in the best of times 2020 so far. Seen a few posts, some funny posts recently about 2020 being cancelled and removed from the from history, which is quite a jovial but quite an accurate summary of how we probably all feel about 2020. Now, all of us that are here today, we all have different challenges, some tougher than others. We all have highs and lows, sometimes daily, weekly, monthly, or from year to year. Everyone's different, but it's definitely all become a lot harder wherever you are, and because of the impact and the uncertainty of coronavirus this year. And obviously we're not over it yet, unfortunately. And there's lots of media speculation and predictions that unemployment's going to get worse, the recession is going to get worse, and so many other things that are quite worrying to all of us. Now, if you look at the different list that we have on the screen here, just to give a few examples, if you're an entrepreneur, you're wearing many hats in your business, you're juggling. If you're a parent, you're also focusing on building a family as well and trying to juggle the life and the work balance. You might be starting a business or scaling a business. You might be experiencing business failure. You might recover from that and you might experience business failure again. And if you look at this second list on the right of the screen, we've obviously touched on coronavirus, and then there's also what we haven't mentioned yet, social isolation and the impact of that on our confidence, our energy, our mood, our productivity, our well-being, the impact of maybe our business being quite strong through lockdown and beyond lockdown. However, one of our suppliers, a really important supplier to supplying our customers, that company goes bust because they weren't in such a strong position. And now all of a sudden, your strong, solid, well-established business is now in a real struggle because you've got all these customers waiting and relying for your services and products. And you've got to, at short notice, figure out a new way or to get these contracts fulfilled and get this work to them. So I've seen lots of companies facing issues like that, good, strong companies. So what I'm saying here is that it is tough at the moment. It's tough for most people. And all of the examples you see on the screen, these are things that I've experienced personally and directly or indirectly. So indirectly through perhaps the clients, the companies, the other business leaders that I've advised and mentored and coached over the years. And if not, some of these in my personal life, having 3 primary age children off school for nearly 6 months this year. They're back at school now, but wow, trying to be a good parent and be their teacher, where my expertise is probably more in adult education. And trying to work really hard to restructure and help my businesses to survive and thrive beyond COVID, and then dealing with worrying about vulnerable family members and all of this other stuff as well. So I can relate to all this stuff, and the stuff I will be sharing to you today will come from my personal experience. It'll come from the heart. It'll come from my mind, my logic, the things I've experienced through companies I've worked with, as well as with my own companies and my own life, the highs and lows over the many years. And if I can share some of the things I've learned from successes and failures over the years to help you to navigate the current situation and thrive beyond it, then great. That will be a really good afternoon for me, and I hope it would be a good afternoon for you as well. And hopefully some of the points on here you'll be able to relate to them, maybe not, maybe now, or maybe you can relate to them in the past. Maybe they're going to become relevant to you in the future, or maybe everything's great for you, in which case you'll hear me talking a lot today about our circle of influence. And that's your friends, your family, your work colleagues, your friends who run their own businesses, family members who run their own businesses, all those other people you're connected to that will be going through one or several of these. By looking out for each other and upskilling on mental health awareness, mental fitness, productivity, how to manage and juggle a work-life balance, we can then share and help each other, help others in our circle of influence. One thing some of you might have been thinking that wasn't on the slide earlier is, well, what about bad luck? Because sometimes even with the best planning, the best intentions, the best learning, things can still go wrong. I can definitely attest to that from personal experience, and it is quite hard to plan for that. So sometimes we can only do our best. One of my mottos through coronavirus this year has been to do our best, to stay positive and be as proactive as possible. And beyond that, there's not much else we can do. Right, you're all aware of why we're here today. We're here to talk about why we must do more, about wellbeing, productivity, and most importantly, how to do it. And that's the actionable takeaways that I'm going to give you. And I'm just going to move this on the screen so that you can read that properly. There we go. By sticking with us to the end of this talk and sticking around for the Q&A, these are things you'll be able to walk away from. And a better understanding of why we're all vulnerable to poor mental health, how to recover or ideally spot the early signs of burnout to avoid it altogether, what great mental fitness looks like and how to get it, and 8 actions to reduce stress, improve work-life balance and business productivity. And I've learned from personal experience that less is more. A quality over quantity approach achieves much greater happiness and outputs and successes. And there used to be a traditional view that we couldn't have a work-life balance at the same time, that you have to put everything into your career or your business to build it up, and then you can retire early and enjoy life. There's lots of research now that actually shows that those who have a better work-life balance, a more sensible working week, and who carefully balance the physical, mental fitness and a life-work balance, those people are being much more successful, much more productive, and they're happier. They're living their lives, they're enjoying their lives more. So they're enjoying their lives more and they're achieving more success in their business or in their career. And that's what I want you all to take away from today, with some real know-how on how to do that. And this is what I expect you to walk away from. If you follow the guidelines, follow the 8 actions I'm going to share today, you can achieve and maintain the best version of yourself, have great mental fitness for yourself and your circle of influence, secure that happier work-life balance, and the Brucey bonus is you can improve your organization productivity and growth. I'm a big fan of numbers and using analytics and knowledge and statistics that numbers provide for us to guide us. To help us make important decisions, to plan ahead, to minimize risk, to maximize success from key opportunities. Now, at the start of this year, a report from Accenture alerted us that 90% of UK workers were touched by mental health challenges. And that doesn't necessarily mean 90% of them had mental health issues, but they were touched by. So if it wasn't them, it was someone that was close to them at work or possibly at home. In their family or in their friendship circle. So we're getting a lot of insights now that mental health is becoming a more hot topic. And in some ways, one positive from coronavirus is that it has, in my experience anyway, as a keynote speaker and expert in mental fitness, it has raised the awareness and the understanding that we need to do more about mental health, which is great. However, when you then drill that down into further research that shows us what's happening about it, 27% in the Accenture survey saw that any positive change in employees speaking openly about mental health in organizations was occurring. So even though the majority of us are being affected or touched in some way by mental health challenges, there's still only a very small percentage of people that are willing to speak open about it and are actively doing that. And then 20% reported an improvement in workplace training to help manage their own mental health. So 80% of companies in this survey were not doing enough to support their employees, to drive employee well-being, to drive a mentally fit workforce. Then at the same time, to exacerbate the concern or the issues further, 36% saw an increase in stress-related absence over the last year. So yeah, a lot going on here. And then my prediction since lockdown in the UK and coronavirus around the world, my prediction is that these stats in a year from now are going to be much worse because of the extra unforeseen challenges that COVID brought us all. A more recent study showed that 51% of UK firms had provided wellbeing support to employees during lockdown. So 1 in 2 companies have not done anything proactively to help their employees deal with the worry of job insecurity, the challenge of juggling homeschooling as well as holding down a job whilst remote working and not having to bring your work home all of a sudden in a forced situation and all these different things. I find it fascinating, but the good news is we can do stuff about it, and it starts with awareness. Now, I'm going to use myself as a bit of a case study of how many of us listening today might have some great achievements and be successful in many ways. And we can work really hard and we can be really talented and determined. However, we can all still be vulnerable to mental health challenges, mental health issues. And this is where I use myself as an example to help educate and raise awareness of this. So if you look on this timeline here, you'll see first half of my career was in corporate leadership. I worked up to a national role, which I started when I was only aged 26. So I was described as a bit of a high flyer in this national role for a FTSE top 10 company. And then I eventually left the corporate leadership world to start my first business in 2012. A business growth consultancy and leadership training company, developing our world's future leaders and entrepreneurs, helping them to be more successful at work, to achieve the exit that they were hoping for, to help them juggle work-life balance. And along the way, I've worked with some amazing companies, some small ones, some large ones. I published a book, which is highly rated. I've done work with London Business School. I'm also a business lecturer for London School of Business and Finance. I've done keynote talks in different locations around the world and so on and so forth. So really good stuff I'm really proud of. Picked up a few awards along the way as well. 26 or 27 it is now, I believe, which is great. And I am proud of this. But what this doesn't tell you, if you look at the top left of your screen, it doesn't tell you if I was being successful in life. It indicates I was being successful in work, but not life. And now underneath all of these achievements, these long working hours, these successes, I was actually burning out. And my body was giving me many signs that that was happening. Physical signs, insomnia, chronic neck and back pain, shoulder pain. I had developed irritable bowel syndrome, to name just a few physical symptoms. And unfortunately, through the way I was brought up and the earlier corporate leadership career that I had, I was conditioned to believe that to get ahead and to be successful and to provide for your family, you just have to work really hard. And yeah, it's going to be stressful and it's going to be long hours, but if you want to be successful, if you want to provide a family, that's what you've got to do. That's the way I was brought up and developed. So basically, I was ignoring these physical symptoms for several years. And then in 2016, something unexpected happened in my personal life, a tragedy which had a series of knock-on events, let's say. And you know, what I went through, which beginning in 2016 would have been too much for anyone. And it's not something I would wish on even my worst enemy, if I had one. And you know, despite me being that fairly fit and healthy and ambitious and determined person, it just made everything too much. So I had a massive burnout, massive cycle of depression, suicidal thoughts, I developed really bad anxiety. I was having panic attacks. I became exhausted because when the personal tragedy happened, it just made everything else much harder. My sleep got worse. My neck and back pains got worse, which I had to have a surgery on as well. Basically the Darrell Woodhouse train had well and truly come off the tracks. So not great. But the good news is I did come back from it, which is why I'm here today. And it was a long recovery, but I did come back. And some of the key things that I did to get back to a better place, I'm going to share today. But generally, it was all about having a work-life balance, not burning the candle at both ends, looking after my physical and mental health better, making more time for family and friends, and actually planning that into my week before I build in all the work stuff. So it was kind of flipping everything on its head rather than before I was just work. So that was some of the key stuff, but I'm going to share more detail on how I did that so that you can help yourselves. And if you're doing this really well already, then fantastic, but so you can help the other 90% of people in your network that are going to go through some form of mental health challenges. So I'm going to start moving towards some more positive stuff away from sort of my story. But I part of my comeback was I wanted to take that to the stage. I wanted to use that personal experience to help and inspire other people to be more aware of mental health and to do more about it. And to prove to people through my own experiences and research and case studies that you can have great mental health and a good business or business career that's successful whilst juggling family, social life, mental, physical fitness. You can have all those things and you'll be far happier and far more successful, far more productive for it. A quick recap on what is mental health. There's still a lot of stigma about mental health, that it's a very bad thing. Lots of people don't want to talk about it. But actually, mental health can be good or bad. However, when a society has decided that it's a bad thing, it takes a while to create enough change for them to recognize it can be a good thing as well. So definition on the screen here, this is the official definition of mental health. But I like to promote the concept of great mental fitness, which is a newer phrase to mental health, but that's one where we can be all positive and we can aspire towards it. And my definition of it is a state of well-being where we can recognize our potential, cope with natural stresses in everyday life, whilst working productively and living happily. And that's what the takeaways I'm going to share today, that's what's going to help you to work towards. Some of you, or some in your circle of influence, if you raise this topic with them, they might be thinking or saying, we're already too busy, why should we do more about mental health? Well, if I haven't got you interested yet so far with what I shared earlier about the stats and my own story, here's a couple more stats. If you feel like you're a superhero and you're nailing life, you're nailing business, nailing work already, fantastic. I want to talk to you as well, because maybe I can learn from you. But as I said earlier, it's not necessarily just about you or me. It's about our colleagues, our suppliers, our customers, who could be going through some stuff now or in the near future. Or maybe it's closer to home, maybe it's our family. These are my children, a couple of years old this photo now, so they're each a foot or two taller. But some more stats are here that I'll just bring up on the screen. 75% of mental illnesses start before the age of 18. So if anyone you know now who starts to show signs of mental health challenges, 75% of those cases, something's been brewing, something's been in them for a long time. And it's a bit more complicated than it just being stress from coronavirus or stress from work. Chances are anyway. And then when you consider with stats that 1 in 4 people in the UK were expected to experience a mental health problem every year. Now this was a study that came out before Corona. And I predict that the stats are going to be much higher than this now. But that's still a lot of people. And a lot of people are affected, and there's a lot of people we can help. Now, those of you that are more financially and profit and results focused, there's some fantastic research now that proves how profitable it can be to focus on developing the mental well-being and mental health of ourselves and our staff, up to 800% return on investment. So for me, that kind of makes it a kind of an extra no-brainer, really. You can do the right thing by people, by caring for their mental health and helping them be successful at home and at work, and you can actually make your business more profitable. And we talked about circle of influence earlier. Very quick exercise for you. Just quickly adding up on your hands or on your pads, just an approximate number of how many people you consider in your close family, your close friendship circle. Then think about colleagues at work. Then think about some of your key suppliers who you might have a direct relationship, or some of your key customers who might be helping to pay your salary or to pay your bills. Think about your community. Teachers who look after and teach your children during the daytime whilst you're working, for example. Think of all those different people, just kind of an approximate number of how many people fall into that circle. It's probably at least 25, possibly it gets more than 100 when we've done this exercise before in other workshops. Think about that number, let's call it 100, at least 25% of those people, 25 bodies, people, minds, are going to go through some stuff over the next 12 months, if they're not already, all around mental health and stress. So they're going to need some help. And by you making time to be here today, if you're a superhero, you're nailing mental fitness, productivity already, then great. And you can be a superhero for these other people in your circle of influence, which could be 25 people out of 100. That's a really important context I'd like you to take away. As we move on, we have a choice. If we choose not to do things differently after this webinar today, just consider, before you make that decision, some of the bigger irreversible damage and impact that mental health can bring. The damage it can cause to an economy, to businesses, to lives, to families, divorce, decreased quality of life. 26 billion was the UK annual cost related to mental ill health. That was in a survey last year. There's a survey that came out recently which is saying it's nearer to 46 billion. So we're always analysing and learning more about the truer impact of mental ill health on business and the workplace, and it's only rising. And then we've got still the uncertainty of coronavirus. I won't read all of these out because you'll be able to read some of those, and obviously you can access the slides later if you want to have a closer look again. I want to move on. Warning signs. How do we know if ourselves or someone in that circle of influence is going through stuff? It's a little bit harder when we're in social distancing, social isolation, remote working, but it's still possible to do that. So just giving a couple of examples here, these are symptoms, physical signs to look out for in yourself and how you might be feeling or acting, or how you might be coming across to others. Again, if you're a superhero, fantastic, but this is what to look out for in those in your circle of influence. And just by making, touching base with people, having some video calls to check in on people, not just about business, but checking on them personally and being able to see them virtually, whether that's colleagues or family members, friends. Just by doing that, there are certain things you still can see. You'll be able to see the colour of their skin, if they're looking pale or unwell. You'll be able to see if they've gained weight, lost weight. By talking to them about their plans for the weekend or what they've been up to last weekend, you'll start noticing some lifestyle habits. And then on the right of your screen here as well, someone looking more tired, poor sleep health is a good sign of mental health issues. 29% of people tend to start or drinking, or will actually drink more when they're struggling. 16%, same point, but with smoking. Poor timekeeping and absence is a good one. Complaints of headaches, visits to the doctor, prescriptions, medication, irritable bowel syndrome, anxiety, panic attacks. They're surprisingly common, as I learned when I fell into my journey of mental health from 2016 to today. Now, quick look at the common causes of mental health issues. With a bit of a caveat, there are more than 275 different mental health disorders. That's a lot. It's a lot to know about, to learn about, and it's a lot to understand. Now, none of us on this session today need to know all of those 275 plus disorders. We just need to have an awareness about mental health in general and be able to spot some of the signs in ourselves or someone else, and then get them some help and support from the experts, from the professionals, the psychological therapists, the GP, for example. Some of the amazing mental health charities and helplines are available 24/7 to help people that are struggling, that are worried about things. You don't have to know all the ups and downs, just at high level. And just to give you a few more here, a few more bits of context, there are biological and psychological causes of mental health issues. For example, some of these are what I talked about earlier that start before we're age 18 in 75% of cases. And then there's the environment. Now, if you see at the bottom of the screen, the last 3 points in bold purple color, excessive working hours, high workloads, harsh deadlines that sometimes we put on ourselves. It's not necessarily someone else putting them on us. Lack of resources, lack of investment in growth and resources in the workplace because of a cost-conscious, profit-focused effort above people and well-being. These are some of the things that are also obviously common causes of mental health issues, so work-related stuff. And the good news is that these areas that I've highlighted at the bottom, these are things generally within our control to some degree, much more than biological or psychological. So these are ones to focus on in terms of what you can do in your own working environment for yourself and those around you. Now, what does great mental fitness actually look like? Here's a couple of indicators. Smiling most of the time, looking healthy, looking well, bright eyes, clear skin, strong posture, someone who's friendly, approachable, someone who's calm under pressure, and so on. Now, we've got this in my businesses that I'm involved in amongst my colleagues. We've got this, but there's no such thing as perfection. So we've got this most of the time, not all the time. And that's okay, because life and business is tough, even at the best of times, occasionally. So all we can do is aspire to this and do the right things within our control to achieve great mental fitness as often as much as possible, but also not to be too harsh on ourselves when we don't quite get there, because there will be down days or bad weeks or bad months. That's just life. That's the roller coaster. Now we're moving into the really juicy stuff, starting with the first of our 8 actionable takeaways that I'd like you to consider for yourself and your circle of influence. Number 1, feed your brain. There's a massive shortfall when it comes to generally society is much more aware of the importance of physical fitness and managing your physical health, going to the gym, going running, swimming, golf, whatever. But there's still a massive gap between how much of our time we spend feeding our brains, feeding our minds. So a few examples of what you can do for that. It's just having a look at your diet, and actually there's a few yummy things you can throw into that diet to eat on a daily basis. It doesn't cost that much time or prep time. And this is food that's specifically great to fuel and feed and nurture your brain health. You've only got one brain. They haven't nailed brain transplants yet, so let's look after it. And I'm talking about things like pumpkin seeds, blueberries, dark chocolate, and fatty fishes. And there are also supplements you can purchase as well to do this. Other ways of feeding your brain is making sure you do have time for things such as mindfulness or yoga, meditation, giving your brain time to switch off and relax, and not being on your phone or your laptop 24/7. And that last point leads nicely into action number 2, 24-hour tech fast. With coronavirus, arguably, we've all now become even more reliant on technology, on our phones, on our laptops. I certainly have felt that, and I've felt the effects of it as well. Zoom fatigue. I think it was a hashtag that was trending just a couple of weeks ago, that many other people are experiencing. So I think what I want to do is just to raise awareness of that we are all, or most of us, are spending too much time now over relying on tech, more than we did before coronavirus. And it's just about making sure that you have regular screen breaks and routine about it. Simple as that, really. This is something that's quite easy for you to control. And one little challenge I suggest is to pick a day of the week. Usually a Sunday is a good one for this, where yourself and everyone in your household, or maybe everyone in your business, are going to agree that you're not going to use any technology unless absolutely essential for 24 hours. So particularly no phones, no TV, no laptops for 24 hours. It sounds like a lot, but it's achievable. And it's quite interesting to then discuss as a team or as a family, well, what can you do with yourselves that doesn't involve a screen for those 24 hours? Get outdoors, enjoy the outside, play board games. There's just so many different things you can do. So take that as a challenge and enjoy the benefits that it'll do to refresh your brain and your eye health, which moves into point number 3, the 20-20-20 rule. So the medical scientists and medical experts, they tell us that we are damaging our eye health and our mental health by not taking regular breaks from the screen. So in addition to what I talked about with the 24-hour tech fast, the idea here is that if we follow the advice, every 20 minutes that we are staring at a screen, whether that's a phone, a TV or a laptop, we should be looking away from the screen for a minimum of 20 seconds for a distance of 20 feet away from us, a minimum 20 feet. So I'm doing it now. I'm deliberately looking away from the screen for 20 seconds, and I'm looking down the end of our garden, which isn't that far, but it's more than 20 feet. And I'm doing that for a minimum of 20 seconds. What that does is it allows your eyes to, the muscles around your eyes to relax, which helps reduce strain, but more importantly, protecting your long-term eye health, and you're protecting your brain as well, because it's damaging to be staring at that screen for too long. So that's the 20-20-20 rule. Initially, it takes a bit of time to build a routine for that. So you can just set a time on your phone to go off every 20 minutes. And if you're on Zoom meetings that are regularly more than 20 minutes long, we'll just have an alarm and do it with everyone on the meeting. You can all do that. You can still keep talking, but you can all look away from the screen at the same time for 20 minutes. Maybe all go and do 20 push-ups as well at the same time, or 20 sit-ups to get the oxygen going, get more oxygen to the brain, get some energy, get some fitness. Moving on to number 4. This is what I call the perfect week planner. Now, I did say earlier, there's no such thing as as perfection, but absolutely we can strive to aspire to it. Now, the perfect week plan is one of the key things that helped me get back to a better routine from going from many years of just working far too much, 70, 80 hours a week, 14, 15-hour days, 5-6 days a week, not doing exercise, not eating well, not spending enough time with my family, all of these kind of things. And sitting down and looking at my diary, my schedule with a clean slate, to think, okay, what would a perfect boundary look like? What would a good work-life balance look like? And this was how I did it. This is the template I used. Now, I'm not suggesting you copy my template exactly, because, for instance, you might not like yoga. You see, I've got yoga in there on a Monday. I've got a date night suggested on the Wednesday. Maybe Wednesday doesn't work for you or your other half. So just use this as a guide, as a template, and obviously make it your own. And obviously everyone's jobs vary as well. Our working hours vary. So anyway, what you do is you start with a blank canvas for the week, and then you first of all plot in the things that you really want to make more time for, the things that are important and urgent. So I'm not just talking about work, I'm talking about social life, I'm talking about family time, time with your other half, talking about fitness time, talking about sleep routine, and all of these things. And you plan them all in a realistic way. And if you follow the prompts to the top of the screen, there's 6 kind of prompts to help you with this as well. When you plan any meetings or time blocks, make sure that you allow time for the unexpected. And you can just have some blank columns consistently. Every day from 11 till 12:15, I'm not going to have any meetings or any other thing planned, because I'm going to just allow myself to have that time. If it still becomes free, I can proactively do it for some extra sales calls, or to phone some friends, or go for a walk, whatever. Or if I need to, because a really important meeting overran, I can take that time back that way. And it's just a much better way to build that time for the unexpected in, rather than what typically even the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders do in larger organizations. And believe me, because I've seen it, I've seen this with my coaching clients over the years, even the most successful people get some of the basics wrong. And many of them have said to me before, but I don't need this, I'm doing really well already. And I say, absolutely you are, but you've told me that you're working really long hours and you'd actually like to work less. So think about what you could achieve if you were even more strategic about how you use your time, your biggest asset, and stop giving it away so freely, and figure out ways to get even more out of that precious time. And that's how we help even successful people to achieve much, much more than they already are. Even the best need a helping hand. So that's a little bit on the perfect week planner, but it's an exercise that takes about 30-40 minutes, and I highly recommend it. The first few times you do it, it feels a bit awkward because it's a bit new, but then it becomes more like a routine and it becomes more natural. And if you were in the office with me here, you'd see I've got mine up on the wall here, and I do my best to follow it to a T. Don't always succeed, but more often than not, I do. Moving on to actions 5, 6, and 7 as we move towards the end of our initial talk before we go to Q&A. So we talked about the circle of influence, and this is under the premise of achieving mental fitness transformation in a workplace. So amongst your teams, for those of you that are employing people, or maybe you have freelancers and subcontractors. Achieving mental fitness transformation in a workplace, it starts with building a really proactive and caring team culture. And how to do that, it starts with learning. It's learning about what's important to your staff, to your freelancers, to your team, your suppliers, your customers, and then catering to what's important to them and then catering to those needs, not trying to come up with the best mental fitness plan yourself and then forcing it on them. And that might sound really simple to you, which is great. I'd be pleased to hear that, but unfortunately, many people get this wrong, and many people don't include others when it comes to setting important strategies, important plans. Also, around sharing problems, a problem shared is a problem halved. If you share it with 4 people, you've split that problem 4 ways, and it's going to be much nicer and easier, and probably more creative in terms of finding solutions to it. And number 6, making more time for fun. And it doesn't take long to do that. So bear in mind that happy people are proven to be at least 12% more productive in their own right. If you track that through to your profits and your bottom line, I'd take that 12% tomorrow. And just think about some small bite-sized ways you can inject more fun, more team building into your office place. And if you're a solopreneur, I don't know, we've got some of you on today. Again, thinking about your suppliers, your freelancers, other companies that you partner with, you can include them in this as well. Because if you're a solopreneur, business can be quite lonely. If you're the CEO of a larger company, it can still be quite lonely because of the pressures that you're facing. So 5 minutes virtual Zoom huddle at the start of every working day, where you have everyone in the team or in that network all jumping on, and then you would rotate the chair for each day, where whoever is going to chair the next day is going to prepare a 5-minute activity. It could be sharing a funny joke, it could be a short quiz, it could be an icebreaker. And even just on the wonderful website of Google, you can search for icebreaker team building exercises, and you'll have hundreds that pop up for free. So it doesn't cost anything, just a little bit of time. But that 5 minutes a day of building some camaraderie, having fun as a team, getting people smiling at the start of the day. There's lots of evidence and proof about how that can boost productivity and make it a happier place to work, which saves a lot of cost and hassle in the longer run. Number 7, one of my favorites, regular WATs, which stands for walks and talks. So when lockdown happened, I saw it, everyone naturally, or most people naturally gravitated to doing more video conferencing, and that's great and it's important. It's important to see people and stay connected. However, many people went too far with it. So my challenge to you is to look at your diary for the next few weeks, look at what video conferences are in the diary, and just challenge yourself, okay, how many of them really need to be a video conference? How many of them really need to be staring at a screen? And how many of them can you convert into a traditional telephone call, where you and the person at the end of the line can agree the time for the meeting. You're going to agree that you're both going to put your wellies on, depending on the weather, or in ponchos, wherever you are in the world, and you're going to go for a walk at the same time. You're going to get some fresh air, some fitness, and you're going to have a great business conversation. Now, that doesn't work for every meeting, so you still do need to have some video conferencing, especially if there's more than 2 people, but also if it's a particularly confidential or sensitive topic. Then there's the issue of needing to take notes while you're out walking. I just have a small black book and a pen that I take with me, so if I need to, I can put it in my back pocket and I can make some notes to help me following up with a follow-up later on. So it is possible to spend less time on a screen for your meetings, a bit more time getting some fitness exercise at the same time, even if it's raining. So, you know, if you think about it, it's better to get out and do that fitness and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, doing work and doing the exercise at the same time. Last but not least, action number 8. This is another one of my favorites actually, and it's a really simple but highly effective way to achieve transformational productivity growth. And again, I can tell you, many companies that I've worked with and gone into and mentored, even companies that are successful, they're not doing this. And it comes from a traditional focus on weaknesses in business. What are our weaknesses and what are we doing to fix them? How can we mitigate or improve them? And that's important because those are genuine risks to our business, to our environment, to our success. However, by organizations and entrepreneurs putting too much emphasis on those weaknesses, we're not fully and truly leveraging our strengths. So I'll give you an exercise to do here. I call it the strength in a trio. Thinking about your own individual strengths or the strengths of your business or your team or your department. Think about the strengths and those assets and plot some ways that you can use those strengths more frequently. Number 2, plot some ways to use them for a longer duration, for more time overall. And number 3, plot some activities that you can implement to transform those strengths. And that's about how can you get even stronger at those strengths. A bit like if you think of your favorite sports team or your sports athlete, they're always trying to break new records. They're always trying to get faster, stronger. Yes, they're working on their weaknesses, but they're always trying to make those fast twitch muscle fibers bigger and stronger and faster to break new records. And they balance developing weaknesses and strengths. So that's the strength in the trio. Using those strengths more frequently for more time and planning activities and making time for them in your work schedule to get even better at those strengths. Don't ignore the weaknesses. You need to juggle those as well, but just don't put most of your time and effort into fixing those weaknesses. The other thing you can do with weaknesses, which is all part of building that right environment for success, setting up your teams and yourself for success and working together. A big part of that is, how do you explain this? A big part of it is also like hiring to your weaknesses. So rather than trying to be better at something that you're not particularly strong or natural at, actually just hire someone in who is trained and experienced at doing that, even if it's on a part-time basis because you can't afford them full-time at the moment, or outsource it to one of the many amazing freelancers that are out there right now. again on a very on a project base or an hourly rate or some other flexible arrangement. There's really good ways to do that. So many other ways to approach weaknesses. And a weakness for you, remember, is more likely to be a strength for someone else, whether that's a colleague or a supplier or a freelancer. So play to each other's weaknesses inside your business and outside of it. Very quick summary. We've covered today why we must do more about mental health. It could unexpectedly be you, someone you love, someone you have responsibility for at home or in the office. Not doing enough really does create misery and significant cost to many. Trust me, I've been there. It can destroy lives, families and organizations. I've been there too. On the plus side, mental fitness and productivity is proven to enable the best success for everyone. And one of my favorite phrases, life can be short. Enjoy what you have and live your best life. Those of you a bit like me who like their stats and research, I often get asked for some of the sources of my materials. So again, there's a slide put in here for you now. If you want a copy, just send me a message on LinkedIn. And in here, you've got some of the sources of some of the statistics that I shared earlier. You've also got links to my social channels as well, if you'd like to access some of the mental fitness interviews and the top tips that I share on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and so on. Thank you all for being here today. I really hope you've had some value. We're not quite done yet. We're going to go into the Q&A. And before I do, final call to action for you is to book a VIM, a VIM. And this is a very important meeting. That very important meeting is with yourself. We all do this. We all go on these great webinars, training courses, keynotes. We watch great inspiring people on YouTube videos, and then we go back to the norm the next day. They say that we forget 75% of what we learn from an experience or a session. We forget 75% within 24 hours. One great way to reduce that is booking this very important meeting with yourself. And that is to have some time in your diary. If you don't have time today, make it for tomorrow or next week. Make it quality, uninterrupted time, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and just revisit your notes from today. What were your key learns? What are you going to do differently to make this investment today of your time and my time? What are you going to do to make that investment of time worthwhile? What are you going to do differently to achieve that much greater life-work balance and success at work? And as I said, if you feel that you're successful already, great. How can you be even more successful? And if you can't be even more successful, then how can you help everyone that you care about at home and in the office? So now I'm going to hand back to Chloe, who's going to support us with the live Q&A. Chloe, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Let's have a look at some of the questions we've had come in from the live chat. We'll try and answer as many as we can with the time left. The first one that's come in says, what small things should I be doing as an employer to help prevent bad mental health amongst my employees that are working remotely?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you for that one. There's lots of things really. Number one, you could do a session with them, similar to what I've done today. Either I can come and do that for you as a guest speaker, or you could do that yourself with your own take on what you've taken away. And you can do that in a leadership by example method by showing them that you invested some time to come on this session, and this is what you're going to go and do differently with your lifestyle and work rate. And then that's one of the best ways actually to show them what you're doing differently and to invite them to come and do it with you. So that'd be one thing. I've also got some blogs on my website as well with some specific ones on how to drive a mentally fit workforce and how to create a employee wellbeing program, for example, which covers things such as reducing stress, managing stress in the workplace and driving great mental health. So hopefully that just gives you a few quick ideas there.
We've had a question from Helen saying, I like the idea of the weekly planner. My issue at the moment is that I have numerous things on my plate that all seem to be a priority.
Yes.
In a situation where everything screams for your attention, how do you advise approaching structuring your time?
It's another really great question. And, this is something I perhaps didn't mention earlier, that, whilst I've tried to make the actionables really simple and sound quite easy, they're not actually that easy when it comes to implementing them, because not because they're difficult to do, but because of our circumstances, because life and business is tough. And decision making, prioritizing skills, communication skills, these are massively underrated, and we don't get sorry to the wonderful people in the education system, but we don't get as much proactive development in those key skills as we perhaps could do in our younger lives. Something I've learned and found over the years. So don't be too hard on yourself, I would say, to start with, and sort of it's about starting small, and thinking about, when you're looking at that never-ending to-do list, you can't say yes to everything. You can't do it all. So you have to say no to things. You have to delegate. You have to outsource. You have to just leave certain things sat in an inbox. So I always start with which of this list, which of these things are most pressing and most likely to help me achieve the goals that I have, whether that's my life goals or my work goals. And if you just pause, even just for 10 seconds, to consider that for each of the things on your to-do list, give yourself that headspace to consider it, invest that time. It's only a small amount of time, but by doing that, you will see things differently. But it's a bit of self-discipline, self-focus to have that conversation with yourself. And alternatively, if you struggle with it, it's something that I can recommend you invest in some mentoring as well to develop these skills. Because as I say, they're really important skills. I've kind of, I guess, had to learn the hard way, but it's something I really recommend can make all the difference.
I've had a question in from Joe saying, can you give an example of something where you've used the strength in the trio in a work environment and the outcomes, achievements that it has brought to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been using this for years, and it's one of the key things I use in my coaching programs as well. So examples, we've got quite a few, but generally I kind of look at a team or a business as a wonderful nest of opportunities, of talent, of skills. And then I take my job as an external advisor or as a coach to try and help get the very best from that team, from that resources, from all of that time, from those individuals. And a part of that means moving things around a bit and sometimes facilitating and helping the individuals to understand what their strengths are, but also what their colleagues' strengths are. And sometimes, and I have a system I call the 3E system, with a methodology and an app that's coming soon, actually. So watch this space for that. And this app is effectively a tool that makes it really easy for teams and colleagues to map out their strengths and weaknesses, and then to redirect those some of those tasks and swap with each other, so that we're actually managing people's workload and working hours in a fair way, but also helping make other important decisions to invest in new staff or to invest in new suppliers, to take some other of the weaknesses or lower value tasks away, so that everyone in the business can keep working to their strengths and doing their best. And results from uplift of 25% productivity, reducing working hours by 12.5 hours a week for an individual. That's quite typical within a few weeks of when I've been providing some of this advice to business leaders and individuals. So it's absolutely possible, and I'm happy to talk more after today as well if anyone wants to go into a bit more detail, and I can give some pointers as well on how to achieve it for yourselves.
Okay, we've got time to squeeze in one more question. This has come up a few times now. So it's around how do people approach their employer or their colleagues or others with their mental health issues? So, and we've had one that says, I usually feel uncomfortable about addressing this. We've had another one that says, how important is it to make my employer aware? And I'm not sure how to approach this.
I'm so glad we get this question on every keynote that I do, whether it's on stage before COVID or on the virtual environment. So thank you for those of you that brought it up today. It's a really important one. And the best way, is a few examples really, is to first of all just just be confident to speak up about it. Draw from the stats and the personal experiences and examples that I've shared today to educate those people that you're working for example. I'm more than happy to have a chat with them as well. You can reach out to me and we can work out a way to approach it together. Maybe it's putting a blog or an education piece in front of them to raise their awareness. But if they as business owners or as employers are not doing this proactively, you saw in the stats, they need to be, and it's in their interests because they have a duty as employers to care for their staff and look after their staff. But if they are typical, some of the typical employers that are very profit focused, and they have a mindset of profit before people, which I completely don't agree with. But those that have that, well, now we're blessed with the research I mentioned where they can actually secure a significant return on investment from investing in mental health awareness and employee wellbeing.
Daryl, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this webinar. Apologies if we didn't get to answer your question today, but I have included Daryl's LinkedIn profile in the comments section. So if you would like to get in touch and ask any questions or request the slides from today, then you can so on that link. Do you have any final words before we sign off, Daryl?
Just to say thank you very much, Chloe and Fresh Business, BT, Starling Bank, the Great Entrepreneur Awards teams for inviting me and putting on this great event today. And thank you to everyone that's joined and for showing an interest in mental health, mental fitness and productivity. And my final comment really is just, trust me from my experience, I wouldn't say things if they weren't genuine because my reputation is on the line. Trust me that these things work. And if you can't do all of them at once, or the 8 different actions that I've shared, just start with 1 or 2 and make them work for you, enjoy the results, and then add some more. But I promise you this stuff works. And I'm really keen for you to practice this stuff and let me know how you go. If you get stuck, give me a shout. If anything doesn't work, let's put our heads together. But this stuff generally really does work, and life's too short to be stressed all the time or working too much. Let's enjoy life and enjoy our work and our careers at the same time.
Daryl, thank you so much, and thank you for delivering an incredibly important session with us. The next webinar will be taking place on Tuesday the 13th of October at 2 p.m. with Allard Bailey, as we'll be discussing using the law to align your professional and personal objectives. If there is anything you'd like to catch up on from today's session, we'll be sending out a replay of the webinar coming at 5 p.m. today. You can find the replay and future webinars at www.freshbusinessthinking.haysummit.com or by clicking on the link in the comment section. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you again, Daryl.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.